Boom! Welcome back to the 21 Convention 2021, 15-year anniversary being held in Orlando, Florida at 21 Summit. Our next speaker is a first-time speaker to the 21 Convention stage, recommended highly to me by many speakers of our event, such as Jack Donovan and Tanner Guzzi. He's the co-founder of Attila's Gym. You've probably seen him all over the news in 2020 and even 2021, Tucker Carlson, stuff like that. This guy, by the way, he's the author, upcoming bestseller, Two Dumb Gym Owners. But what I do want to say about this man before he joins the stage is, like our founding fathers, this man has put his balls, his money, his life, and his masculinity on the line to stand up for what he believes in, to stand up for freedom, and to give a good example to American men of what it means to be a fucking man. Without further ado, please help me welcome for the first time ever to the 21 Convention stage, Ian Smith. Thank you, sir.
21 Convention. I'm happy to be here. Everybody in the audience, everybody streaming it. My name is Ian Smith. I am one of the co-owners of the Attila's Gym of Belmar, New Jersey, along with my business partner, Frank Trombetti. And today, I came here and I'd like to share our story that Frank and I, what we've been through over the past 20 months, and what our gym has been through, and what the people that have supported us have been through in the past 20 months. And my hope is that you'll find some lessons in this story. I'm gonna leave you with some that I think that are important, but after the story, I'm gonna open up to a Q&A and ask away, because it's an interesting story. But what's really interesting about it is it's about two regular guys. There's absolutely nothing inherently special about Frank and I, and I think that's probably the greatest lesson. So Frank and I, we bought a dumpster fire of a gym called Attila's Gym Belmar. We had worked together for several years alongside. Frank has owned a nutrition store in the area for 25 years, Rock Bottom Nutrition. He's an expert at what he does. He's one of the best in the business, and I had the opportunity as a young independent trainer to work alongside him in his facility, renting my own space, being able to build my business. And eventually we decided to buy Attila's Gym. Attila's Gym, when we found it, had about 90 members a day coming through. It was empty. It was a hostile environment for most people, especially beginners and women, and it was a failed business. But Frank and I knew that we had what it took. We had a vision. We knew that we would work hard, and we knew we would be dedicated. And those were the American principles that we had been raised on. Hard work, dedication, you do the right thing, and you will wind up in a better spot than where you started. So we bought Attila's Gym and got right to work. We were working about 80-hour weeks, and within a month, the gym was profitable. The environment had changed, and we were on an upward trajectory up until March of 2020. Now, we had heard whispers coming in February about this new novel coronavirus that was supposed to be the be-all, end-all of humanity. The media cranked up the fear. They played 24/7 coverage about it. And that order came to shut down and suspend business, small business, non-essential business in New Jersey in March. Now, Frank and I were not excited about this prospect for several reasons. We were a brand new business. We had only owned the gym for about 9 months at that point. And we had a lot of work left to do, and we were very skeptical of the idea of allowing government into our lives and suspending our rights in this so-called emergency. Nonetheless, we didn't know enough to confidently stay open, and we decided to close our doors just like most of America did. Never stopped working. Came right into the gym the next day. There was a lot still to do. We still had a dumpster of a gym. It was no longer a dumpster fire. But we still had plenty of work to do. And Frank is probably the hardest working man I have ever met. He jokes a lot, but it's true. He said the only thing that anybody has ever given him is a hard time. He's earned his way in this life, and it's probably one of the most redeeming qualities that he has. So, we didn't take any time off. We went right in, we were working. We had upgrades to do, we were fixing stuff. But what we started to do was pay attention. And that was probably the first time that we had really paid attention to what was going on in the world around us. And it was pretty shocking. Paid attention to two things. Paid attention to the science behind all of this and the politics behind all of it. Because we knew that these two things were probably going to shape our world, and they had already started to. Almost right away, there were red flag after red flag after red flag. Frank has an incredible understanding of the human body. It's why he's been in business for 25 years. That's why he's been able to, as a small business brick and mortar nutrition shop, be able to compete in the world of GNC and Vitamin Shop and bodybuilding.com and Amazon. So we were learning everything we possibly could. How the virus was transmitted, how to mitigate risk, how to treat it, what were the actual numbers behind these deaths and these cases. And very quickly, things weren't making sense. And Frank would be able to break all of that down, and to this day, he's been right pretty much all along the way. So we started to get very, very skeptical now. Common sense told us that a lot of this wasn't making sense. We would go and we were working during the shutdown, and on day one, we had finished up some work, and Attila's Gym is a 15,000 square foot facility. So on day one, we were finishing up some work, and I decided to get a little workout in, and somebody took a picture from our front window of me working out in my gym, my 15,000 square foot gym, and reported it to the health department. They sent the Belmar police over, and they threatened us on day one for me working out in my gym that I own, a $50,000 fine and a revocation of our business license. So right there, that was big red flag number one. There's absolutely no way that you could justify that for any reason. And that really put us on the tail of the politics behind this, because we started to ask. We called the health department. Nobody could confirm or deny that that was true. There was no paperwork of any of this. It was all people at the top just making it up as they went along. So on day 11, Congress passed the single biggest economic stimulus bill in the history of the United States to the tune of, I believe it was $2.6 trillion. And in that stimulus bill, which was about 1,000 pages, so I'm sure none of them actually read it, there was the incentivization of people to stay home and not work with an extra $600 a month, or excuse me, $600 a week unemployment for 16 weeks when we were supposed to be staying at home for 14 days and getting back to business. That was the original plan. And to us, that didn't make a whole lot of sense. To us, that was politics being politics, the moving of the goalposts, which we knew what was going to happen from day one. And that was all the evidence that we needed. Right then and there, we made our final decision that we were going to reopen. We had talked about it before. Frank wanted to file a lawsuit on day one, which is most of the original the lawsuit that we have going on now, for multiple constitutional violations. But that was the straw that broke the camel's back for us. It wasn't making sense, and we were 3 days away from when we were supposed to be reopening with no plan being presented by any governor or any elected leader. So Frank and I made the decision there that we were going to reopen. We were going to take our time. We were going to learn everything we possibly could. And we were going to be so over-prepared when we reopened that it would be laughable to shut us down when you drive by a Walmart and there's not a single parking space left open. So we put together a 15-point safety protocol, going so far above and beyond. We had contact tracing systems. We had a temperature scanner at the door. We had people signing health waivers. We had spray bottles for each and every person that walked through the door so that they could carry it with them and spray and wipe equipment as they went, using a non-toxic peroxide-based cleaner. We had hydroxyl air filters coming in, technology that the government could have put in every single building in America with all that money that they spent, that purify the air up to 99.9% virus and bacteria free using peroxide. So we got our plan together, we dotted our I's, we crossed our T's, and we got ready to step into the unknown because we didn't know what was going to happen when we swung those doors open. We picked a date. That date was exactly 2 months to the day that they asked us to shut down. They asked for 2 weeks. We gave them 2 months. The gig was up. We were opening our doors. So I went on my social media. I did about a 7-minute video, and we wanted to explain to people what we were doing, why we felt we had to do it, and how we were going to do it safely and effectively. And we also wanted to make our plan public because we wanted to show every business in the country, every church in the country, every school in the country that was shut down that you could reopen safely using some sort of variation of what we're doing here. So I made that video and caught the attention. I believe that it was truly right message at the right time. People were tired of this 14-day lockdown that just seemed to be extending and extending and extending. And it caught the attention of a local radio show. He gave us about 15 minutes. His name's Rich Zioli. And we talked about our plan. And that night, the phone rang and Tucker Carlson said, "You want to come on my show?" And I said, "Absolutely." So I went on to Tucker Carlson and announced to the world that Attila's Gym was going to open 1 week from that night. As soon as I walked out of the station that night, my phone was smoking with notifications. The gym phone was going off, and there was a tremendous amount of support coming our way. People were so excited that we were going to do this. And I remember being on the Tucker Carlson show, and he said, as I'm looking at the camera, you can't see him, you're just looking into a camera, and you hear him in your ear, and he said, "You guys are about to defy the governor of New Jersey. Are you ready to do that?" And I said, "Absolutely." And that was that moment, that trigger pull. So 1 week from that day, Frank and I, along with some volunteers, the Belmar police were instructed not to let us into the building on Monday morning. So Frank and I, along with some volunteers, our family, our friends, members of the gym, we chained ourselves in on Sunday night. We covered the windows up with brown paper, and we chained ourselves in the building early on Sunday evening, slept through the night. Not many of us slept, but we prepared. We had no idea what was coming. We didn't know if we were going to get arrested. We didn't know if the police were going to be there. Knowing the government, we didn't know if the army was going to be there. And through the night, you could hear the crowd gathering. You heard people, and we were looking through the cracks, and you saw American flags, and you saw Gadsden flags, and the noise and the energy was building in the parking lot at like 3 a.m., 4 a.m. Then the news anchor showed up, and there was a news truck from every major news agency in the country, including the local news, national news, the Spanish channel. Everybody was there. And time approached. It was about 7 o'clock, and Frank and I stood at that door. It's actually in the book. Frank and I stood at that door in front of the brown paper with a big chain wrapped around it, and we looked at each other, and we had made the promise before that if we were going to do this, it was all the way through. We weren't going to stick your toes in the water and decide it was cold. We were going to do it, and that was it. Frank and I looked at each other right there, said, "Until the wheels fall off," and we opened the doors. And right before that, actually, we said, "Till the wheels fall off," and Frank looked at me and goes, "I sure hope somebody came to work out." And those doors swung open, and Pete Hegseth from Fox News was there with an interview on national television right then and there, because he understood how important it was, just like Tucker did. And we gave that national interview. Police in the parking lot, probably about 600-700 people in the parking lot. And the most important part was wrapped around the building were all of our members. And the members that were there are some of the best men and women that I know. They are some of the most honest and genuine people who are looking to take control of their lives and to be rugged individuals and to take care of themselves in their own manner. And they truly embrace what this country is all about. A lot of them are veterans, active military, they're members of the community, they're police, fire, nurses, doctors. We're a blue-collar town, and these are just the nitty-gritty people that make up this country, the good people of this country. And we opened our doors. So we had this extensive protocol in place, and we had a very busy first day. Frank is the numbers guy, so I'm going to estimate it. I think we had about 400 people come that first day or something to that effect. Everything went well. Around noontime, the Belmar police approached. They were in the parking lot at first, just kind of watching, making sure everything was good. And we quieted the crowd down, and the captain at the time approached us, and the crowd was sort of expecting him to do something bad, and we quieted them down. And he said to us, as there's this large group of people just gathered around waiting for him to say something, he said, "You are all in violation of an executive order." And he took this long, dramatic pause, and he said, "On that note, be safe and have a nice day." And he turned around and he walked away. And we had thought, we right there, we thought we won. There was this eruption in the crowd, and there was this moment where we were like, "We did it!" And Governor Murphy saw that because it went viral. And 15 minutes later, he had the Attorney General call the Camden County Prosecutor's Office. The Camden County Prosecutor's Office called the Township of Belmar Police Department and said, "If you do not get in there and close them down, we are going to furlough the entire department for 2 months without pay." So, needless to say, the captain did not come back. He was pretty much on his way out anyway. He had done his time in the police force. He was ready to retire. And I think that was probably the last thing that he needed to get out the door. And second lieutenant stepped up. We still call him lieutenant. He doesn't like us very much, but we refuse to acknowledge his rank as captain. His name's Lieutenant Dram. Came and gave us our first set of tickets. We took them out in the open in front of the cameras, standing there. We took our tickets. We said nothing to them, and the gym stayed open. Day 2, same tactics. Then they went after the people who were leaving the gym. So as our members were leaving, cops were following to their car, asking their names, writing citations. Again, violation of a governor's order is this ambiguous charge. Many of our members got citations that day. One of our members got arrested, but the gym stayed open. Wednesday came around. They no longer wanted to give people citations in front of the media because the media was still there, so they set up a camera in the parking lot. In the parking lot, they were pulling people over as they were leaving, out of the eyes of the media. We had that camera removed. It's a private parking lot. They had no permission to do it. Camera came down. Show goes on. They started mailing us our tickets because Frank and I would happily stand out in front of the cameras and smile as they gave us ticket after ticket. So they resorted to mailing because the media was just not doing them any favors at that time. And we knew that. We knew that when we opened. We knew that we needed some visibility. We knew that we were probably up against something that we had no idea what these people were capable of or to what extent that they would go, but we knew that they were going to pull punches. And we were totally okay with that as long as we could show the entire world the extent to which these people would punish you to ensure your compliance. Government's supposed to work with the people. This is not an example of that. They never came to talk about our safety protocol. We announced publicly, we put our protocol out there, and all they wanted to do and all they've done is try to punish us. Nonetheless, Thursday in the middle of the night, the middle of the morning, the health department came by, pulled up in a white van in the middle of the night and slapped 4 pieces of paper on our door that basically said, "You're shut down because coronavirus." Once again, never took a look at our safety protocol, nothing. Never even stepped foot inside the building, didn't even send an email. So on Thursday, we weren't quite sure what to do. Frank and I weren't looking for trouble. We were looking for solutions, and we had a good one, and we still have a good one. But we stayed shut down for that day. We weren't sure of the legality of it, and we were doing our best to play nice. We were doing our best to respect the institution of this country and the systems therein. Friday, we said, screw this, we're opening. So we opened up again after we read the health department shutdown that was based on a registered nurse who is the head of the health department in New Jersey. A registered nurse, not a virologist, not an epidemiologist, an RN. So we decided to ignore it. On Friday, we opened. We had probably our most normal day of that week. And at the end of the day, we had all gone home, and our lawyers got a call from the Attorney General. And right before the closing bell, Governor Murphy put a motion for a a court order for us to shut down. Governor Murphy uses a judge named Judge Robert Lugie. And in the state of New Jersey, we do not have elected judges, we have appointed judges. These judges do not answer to the public, they answer to the politicians that put them there. Not only do they get appointed, but most of them are tenured. So they're like a bad teacher. And they do not respect the law because they do not have to. There's no standard at which they have to do their job because there's no accountability. So Judge Robert Lugie, he's an interesting character in this story. We'll just call him Governor Murphy's lapdog from here on out. Judge Robert Lugie put a court order for us to shut down, and they came in the middle of the night, and they changed the locks on our business. Without our permission, our business, where we have paid our rent, where we are up to date on our bills, they came and they locked our doors. So at that point, Frank and I, we decided we were going to play nice. We turned it over to the courts. Okay, we made our protest. We put a little bit of faith in the system, and we thought that the courts would offer the checks and balances that they are supposed to offer. They didn't. We grew weary, and we decided that we were going to reopen. Thankfully, Rock Bottom Nutrition is inside there, and technically that's in essential business. Once they found that out, they handed the keys back over. And in the meantime, we were taking our gym equipment outside every single day. We were pulling 30,000 pounds worth of machinery, squat racks, bench presses, dumbbells, barbells, you name it. We pulled the entire gym out into the parking lot every single day and put it back every single day. And we were having 300 people a day show up in the middle of June on the blacktop to work out, just to prove a point, and just because they wanted to. So on July 4th, we had enough. And we figured that was a good day to get arrested, Independence Day. So we said, no more outside, everybody back inside. Unfortunately, they didn't come arrest us that day. That would have been good headline news. But they did put forth a motion to hold us in contempt of court. And of course they did. We were in contempt of court. A judge told us to shut down. We said no. At that point, things escalated pretty quickly. We started getting fined $15,000 per day, $15,497.76 per day for every day that we were in operation. And we are a gym. We are a small gym that charges people $30 a month, and at the time wasn't even charging people. To date, we have not charged any of our members since the shutdown. We operate entirely off donations because it was never about the money, it was always about the principle. $15,000 a day fine. They took $172,000 from our bank account in the middle of the night, in the middle of ongoing litigation, trying to shut us down. In August, they stripped us of our business license. We were never found guilty of a crime. We still not have been found guilty of any crime. And they never put any evidence forth that we were any danger to the public. We had plenty of evidence, that contact tracing system. At the time, I think we had about 100,000 visits with no outbreaks linked to our facility. To date, we, sometime next week, I believe, we're up in the 290,000 mark. We will break 300,000 visits to our little gym in New Jersey with not a single outbreak linked to our facility. We have a nice stack of paperwork about this high by 5 feet by 5 feet. And we like to take a picture next to it every time we hit 100,000. So we make sure Governor Murphy sees that. And nonetheless, nobody's ever come to look at that pile because there are no cases in there. We've been arrested. Our members have been arrested. We've been persecuted. They've tried to shut off our electric. We've caught people out back messing with our plumbing 7 different times, costing us thousands of dollars. And the premise was really simple. There was a really simple game plan for Frank and I. Open the gym. Open the gym. Open the gym, no matter what. That was our mission. It was simple. We didn't overcomplicate it. They weren't going to come into our lives and tell us that we couldn't provide for ourselves and our families. So we just kept opening the gym. They came to shut our doors again, and this time we weren't quite sure what we were going to do. And I was messaging a friend, another gym owner who kept his gym open. His name's Lou Uridel out in California. And all of us small businesses who were openly defying these orders, we were all spread out all over the country. And unfortunately, each state or each municipality was using different tools to shut people down. So we couldn't help each other. All we could do was communicate. And I texted Lou, and I'm like, they're coming to lock our doors again. And Lou texts back, and he goes, take them off. And it was one of those moments where you laugh at first, and then you're like, wait a second. And I walked over to Frank, and I said it to Frank, and he kind of looked at me, and next thing I know, I hear the drill going, and the doors are coming off. So at that point, things had just continued to escalate, and we weren't going to back down. They had proved the hunch that we had. We thought these people had bad intentions, and if they had good intentions, they would have worked with us. But they just kept escalating. So did we. Because now it's personal. Now you're trying to ruin my life. You're trying to ruin my business partner's life. And that's just not going to happen. It's not. Nobody was coming to save us except ourselves. And that's a really scary thing when you first have to come to terms with that big elephant in the room. That nobody was going to fix this problem for us. There was no bailout. There was no politician who was going to wave a magic wand and make this all go away. The only people that were going to get us out of this scenario was Frank and I. So we took the doors off. We opened the gym for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, until they finally came and arrested us and boarded the doors up. Frank and I took a little break after we got out of the holding cell. I think we took about 2 days off, and the plan was open the gym. So we called the national media. We called Tucker Carlson, and we said, we'll have a story for you tonight. We put out sounded the alarm to our supporters who have been incredibly good to us. Not only around the country, but especially the people in and around New Jersey, Pennsylvania, who would show up in our parking lot anytime we asked them to. Put the word out, and Frank and I decided that we were going to reenact the movie 300, and we stood in front of the flimsy plywood that they stuck in front of our door, which I don't know why they didn't use at least something a little bit better, knowing that it's a pretty heavy hitter gym. And we kicked the doors in. We turned the lights on, we turned the music back on, and we resumed business right back inside. And that has led us 19 months down the road of this game of tit for tat with a government that is not only unwilling to work with people, but feels like it doesn't have to. And there's something fundamentally wrong about that. It's not what this country was founded on. It's so far from what this country was founded on that it's actually pretty scary. Right now, gym is still open. every single day. They've never been able to successfully shut us down for more than a day or two. Gym is open every day. We have no less than 500 healthy, happy people come through our facility. Still don't charge our members. We still operate entirely off of donations. We're in the process of getting business license back. We sell a lot of t-shirts. People wanted to support us, but they also wanted to represent us. We weren't even making, I think we had like one t-shirt out before this. And to date, we've sent t-shirts to all 50 states hundreds of times over, and to 20 countries around the world. We get pictures from around the world. We got one not too long ago. It was this guy in Australia standing down, or standing in the face of a police line, waving the Australian flag. I think he was wearing this shirt, actually. Wearing the Belmar for Everybody shirt, and we have a hat that says, "Make politicians afraid again." And this guy in Australia was wearing it. And that's how we've been able to maintain. You know, we don't make a lot of money, but we make more than enough to continue on with the fight. And the fight is the most important thing to us, because to us it means absolutely everything. It wasn't just about a gym, it wasn't just about feeding our families. I can remember very early on, you know, Frank is a little bit older than me. He's 52 years old. He's a family man. He's got 5 children, a wife. Frank lost his mother during this. And he said, you know, if I were gone tomorrow, I wouldn't be comfortable with the world that I'm leaving my children. And that really stuck with me, because the gym was always the vehicle that we were moving through for the fight. It was never about keeping a gym open. We love our gym. I would never want to lose our gym. We built it. It's one of the most normal places on earth right now. But it's never about the gym. It's always been about the bigger purpose that government has no place in our lives the way that they are today. And the fight continues on. The story's not done. A book was written about us. It's actually part 1 of 2, because the story just keeps going on. And we had to get the first one out, so it's a 2-part. It tells us everything from the inside, from why we made the decisions we did, the things that we struggled with along the fight, dealing with the pressure, dealing with just life in the process of this huge battle that we've been fighting. It's been a wild 20 months, but it was easily, and I know I can speak for Frank when I say this, it's the best thing that we have ever done. It's not over, but it is a battle that we will win. I'm 100% sure of that. Neither of us would fight a battle that we think that we would lose, or one that wasn't worth fighting. So we are now in 4 places in court, making progress very slowly. The story continues. We were stuck in state court for a very long time in front of the lapdog judge. There wasn't a single lawyer in the country who would have won in front of this guy. In court, he said, and this is a quote, he said it twice, "If you're here with a constitutional argument, you are in the wrong courtroom." So that's the type of stuff that we're dealing with these elected judges. We did get some good news. We were finally heard on our municipal charges, which is the ones in the beginning. We have somewhere around 90 of those at this point. They were postponed and postponed. COVID's always the excuse. You know, we can't open the courthouses. Finally, we were heard. We were actually in a different municipality because we have legal action against the township of Belmar, so there's a conflict of interest. So last week, we were heard on our municipal charges, and it was our first not loss. We've been to court probably 20 times and lost every single time in front of this judge. We were in front of a new judge who looked at our case and pretty much laughed at it. So our lawyers told that early on that the way to victory would be from the municipality all the way up. So we have a path forward. We did get some good news, but it doesn't change anything. The gym stays open every single day. Now, the reason I tell the story, it's a funny one, it's a good one, but there's a lot of lessons for men in that story. And As men, Frank and I think we have grown tremendously from this experience. It's easily the hardest thing we've ever done as well, but we've learned some incredible things. And there's lessons all throughout it about how to be a better man, how to be a stronger man, how to be a more powerful man, how to be a man that you like, a man that you respect. So I'll leave you with 3 lessons that I've learned, and then I'll open it up to a Q&A, and you guys can ask away, and I'm more than happy to tell you anything about the story, any detail about the story. The first lesson is the importance of brotherhood. If it was just me, or if it was just Frank, this would have never happened. We would have never been able to bear the load. You can be the strongest, best version of yourself, but at the end of the day, you're always stronger with brothers. You're always stronger with brothers who are on the same page and about the same mission. You know, Frank and I have an interesting relationship, brutally honest, even when it's not fun. We challenge each other. We hold each other accountable. We watch each other's backs. And without that, and the brotherhood goes beyond Frank and I. The brotherhood is actually a tribe, because it does include women too in our gym. But we've got this tribe, this community around us that we are responsible for building, but that is essential to our success and survival and ability to be great. If it was just Frank, if it was just me, or if it was just Frank and I, and we weren't able to build this community of people of a like mind, of people who identify as Attila's gym, we would have failed miserably. Because it's not, life is too big of a task for yourself. And you're not always going to have all the answers. You're not always going to have all the energy. You're not always going to have all the motivation to do the things that need to be done. But when you surround yourself with brothers, with a tribe, they will pick up the slack when you can't, and they'll pick you up and they'll get you moving forward. I can't tell you how many times I wanted to quit this. I can't tell you how many times. You know, I was feeling bad for myself. You know, why do I have to go through this? Why me? You know, everybody's living their lives, and we're working 12 hours, 14 hours a day. Why? Frank was always there to tell me to shut up. Because Frank will work 14 hours and he won't even bat an eye. And he holds me to that standard. You know, and if it was just me, I probably wouldn't do that. Lesson number 1. Lesson number 2 is that the world needs strong men. Traditionally strong men. Those values that I know you guys all already know. Men who stand up for what is right, no matter what the cost. Men who will do the right thing, even when that's the hard thing. Men who are unafraid of criticism. Men who are unafraid of sacrifice, whether that be their time, their money, their energy, their lives. When we first did this, we blew up. We went from 2 gym owners to a national, international story to political figures. And we started getting invitations to help other movements. And I would show up to these protests, and it would be 9-to-1, women to men. And I can't tell you how many women I've come across who are crying out for men to step up and start being men again. Somewhere along the way, we've lost a lot of who we naturally are. It's a societal thing, it's a cultural thing, whatever it is. It's not right. You can link it to 50 different other things. Progressivism, whatever, toxic masculinity. We've all heard it. There's a reason they want men to be soft. There's a reason They want men to be agreeable. It's because agreeable men leave weak legacies, and agreeable men sit and watch the world turn, and they do nothing to change it. You weren't meant to be agreeable. You were meant to be combative. It's a good thing. You were meant to ask questions. You were meant to challenge authority, even if it's authority within your own group. Look at pack animals. Look at dogs. The alpha is always being tested. It keeps order. It keeps things energized, keeps things fresh, keeps everybody on their toes, and it moves everybody forward. They've told us, and they've told us that's bad. They've told us competition is bad. They've told us almost every traditional aspect of masculinity is bad. And ever since they've been telling us that, we've been on this downward slide. Don't be an agreeable man. Best thing I ever did was stop that, was stop worrying about the criticism. And through this, I got the practice of, or the experience of dealing with the outrage mob and dealing with the criticism and people digging up dirt on you and just all of it. We've heard it all. There were periods of time where our phone would ring every second of the day, and it was people screaming at us all day, every day. When we put out a tweet one time, and we were watching the news, and Frank saw that Krispy Kreme was giving away a free donut for a vaccine, and he said, "Let's give away free memberships for natural immunity." And we put that tweet out, and you would have thought that I had just said the most horrific thing ever. Our phone was ringing nonstop, people calling us murderers for giving out free gym memberships. But you learn, once you feel that heat, that it's not really so hot. Looks hot, sounds hot, but it's not hot. And I've read a lot of good stuff recently, and one of the things that helped me get really comfortable with the uncomfortable nature of being a man is that it doesn't matter what anybody says unless you care about them. We've lost that. We're so afraid to be criticized as men from people who have absolutely zero influence and impact or weight in our lives. And they did that on purpose. So you would sit down, you would shut up, and you would watch the world turn. Last, and probably the most important one, is that as a man, your word is everything. Everything. Frank and I, when we started doing business, I walked into Frank's store at the time, several years ago, and I was a young trainer in the area who had gone out on his own and was training people in parking lots, and somebody had introduced me to Frank and said he had some extra space, and walked in the store, introduced myself, said I needed to use some of the space in the back for training. Frank handed me a key to his business, and he said, "Don't screw me over." Shook his hand, looked him in the eye. We made a deal. Never put anything on paper. When we opened our gym, we did the same thing. When we bought the gym, so you want to buy a gym? So yeah. All right, we did it. We already understood what was going along with that. Without even saying it, I understood and Frank understood that that meant 80-hour work weeks. Because we bought a gym, we were going to make it work. The details were irrelevant. Bought a gym, we were going to succeed. Whatever it took. Kept our word. And then one more time we did it. Till the wheels fall off. Looked each other in the eye, made a promise, and said, we're going to do this, no matter what it takes. And I tell you all those crazy details because I want to illustrate what it has taken to get here. It's been hard. It's been 1,000 ways we could have quit. But I know Frank wasn't. I didn't have to worry about somebody quitting on me because I knew his word was good. And he didn't have to worry about somebody quitting on him because he knew my word was good. So there will be an update at some point. The story's not over. We'll call that part one. With the rate that the courts move, maybe I'll be here next year to tell you the rest. And on that, I want to open it up to Q&A. Anybody who has any questions about anything, go right ahead. I'm happy to answer all of them.
Ian, thank you so much for sharing that story. It's really, really inspirational. My name is Calvin.
Thank you.
I wanted to, have you seen this being contagious? Have you seen other businesses that took your lead and stayed open?
Yes, yeah, there were, by no means were we the first business. We just were the loudest, and that was mainly because of the media attention we got, particularly Tucker Carlson. We were able to ride that wave. But there were a lot of businesses who opened before us. There was Shelley Luther, who was the Dallas salon opener, who opened her business and was jailed for it. There was Lou Uridell. There were a couple other guys. And much more followed as a result of that, and much more are now continuing to follow. Unfortunately, with this kind of stuff, there's a very slow learning curve. People want to believe in the good and in the best. And there were a lot of business owners who just kept complying and complying because they wanted to do the right thing. Now they're starting to see it, and now you're seeing a huge uptick in businesses that are defying it. And, you know, whether that was because of us or somebody else, it is contagious, 100%.
Hey, Ian, thanks for sharing again. I was actually living in Philly at the time in that area. Didn't even know about the gym till this blew up, and I was kind of impressed that that was right in my backyard. But I wanted you to talk a little bit about the support that you've been getting. And a lot of times, the reason I bring that up is because in this culture with the media controlling the narrative, overwhelmingly, we sometimes forget these people are out there, or they're silent. You can feel it sometimes, but could you just talk a little bit about the support that you've gotten and how you feel that there is or is not an overwhelming mass of people willing to back you up if only you stand up as a man and actually do it?
Yeah, actually, well said. You kind of gave me a segue right into the answer there at the end. You know, the media, to address the first part, media, entertainment, government, all of this, you know, working in sort of lockstep with each other, have gotten really good at creating a reality for their viewers or their consumers. When you are actively censoring and shutting down voices that oppose you, and at the same time turning up the volume on the voices that go along with this narrative. So what they do is they shut down the sort of the strong pro-American, pro-liberty voices of common sense, and they turn up the volume on the crazy. And what that does, especially to the degree at which they do it, you know, these people have been running media for years. They're not figuring out how to do it now. They're executing a skill set that they've developed over a long time. It creates the appearance that you are isolated because you're not hearing all of the voices around you that are thinking the same thing you are. People are thinking it, they're not. Either they're saying it and they're not being heard, or they're not saying it because they don't think they'll be heard, or they're afraid of the consequences of the outrage of their opinion because they're having the same experience that you are, where they feel like they're the only one who's hearing it or thinking it. But when you turn that off, when you live in the real world, you know, we've been living at the gym. It's very clear what the majority is. The majority is the people who will support you. For all the hatred we got 10 times as much support, and for all the hatred we got, it's gone in a flash. These people that will criticize you, these people that will try to shut you down, whatever, they have the attention span of a flea. They're on to the next thing almost immediately because they're emotional, they're not rational. These are people that get riled up by the media, and it's manufactured emotion, so it's not substantial and it won't stay. But the proof is in what we've done. You look at any business in the country that tried to stay open, and they got support, even without the type of media. You had people. Another example is Basilico's restaurant in San Diego. He's been open. His business is packed every single day. When we were, I told you at the beginning, 90-some people a day were coming through Attila's gym. When we shut down, we were at about 250. During coronavirus, we were doing 800 to 850 people a day. So the support is there. You won't see it until you do something that's worth being supported. But there are people everywhere who are waiting to support something. The world isn't made up of leaders. Well, the world, it'll never be. It doesn't work like that. But if you're in an area where you're not seeing that, then you create it. You create something to support, and you watch. People will come out of the woodwork left and right.
Thanks, Ian. There's more of us than we know sometimes. Thanks.
Far more. Far more.
What's up, Ian?
How are you?
Getting better by the minute, dude. So for a lot of the men maybe around here that don't follow your story and don't know about like how you kind of proceed through non-masking, going through the airports and other things like that, who want to sort of not follow in your footsteps, but they want to start doing the same type of things. Can you speak to the consequences that you face? Because we know there are, but like on a daily, like being turned away, being shaken down, because when you do stand up, people are going to want to shut you down. So can you give like some specific examples just to,
Absolutely.
Allow them to, and us, all of us, to see how it's not so hot as you describe it?
Yeah. The problem with where we're at as a whole is that we are refusing to draw a line in the sand. Because everybody's exchanging, they're making this exchange of keeping some sort of semblance of comfort in the short term so that they don't have to address the elephant in the room, or they don't have to fight the battle now. It's short-term sort of pleasure and comfort in the exchange for long-term discomfort. It's a slow slide, and you can see that. I mean, look at what we've given up, right? And it's always like this. We're always in this constant like back up little by little, But the second that you draw the line in the sand and say, I will not tolerate any of this, is the second that you now have to be completely responsible for yourself. And that's a really scary thing. You have to be responsible, and you're sacrificing your comfort in the moment in the exchange for comfort down the line. And that's a symptomatic thing we see all the time. I mean, the easy example is credit cards. People spend money on credit cards they don't have. That's one of many examples. That's a trait, a cultural trait that we all are kind of dealing with, and not just as men, but particularly as men in this case. So you draw that line in the sand, you're declaring your perimeter. And if somebody crosses that perimeter, then you have to get uncomfortable. And people need to get comfortable being uncomfortable. It's okay. It's not going to hurt. You know what I mean? Like, I go through the airport. Sometimes I fly. Sometimes I'm walking out of the airport booking a rental car. But I won't do it. I won't wear the mask. I won't take part in the theatrics anymore. There was an incident at Newark, and the TSA would not let me through. They didn't say, I didn't have the mask on. I'm standing here in the TSA line, sir, you need to put it on. So I haven't had one on the whole time. I'm just going to walk through. And that there are 20 feet of security set up. The guy said, "This is my jurisdiction." I laughed at him. Okay. But what would have been the easier thing to do in that situation? I could have put the mask on, I could have appeased, Officer Doofy here and walked through, and then I could have taken it off and I could have gotten on the plane, and instead of driving to Michigan, I could have flew, I could have been there in 2 hours, I could have been having dinner and a drink instead of flying through Ohio at 100 miles per hour. But that was our line in the sand. We said no to the mask because it doesn't work. And they're using it to control people. And you have to just be brutally honest. You know what I mean? If it's BS, why are you allowing it? What does that say about you as a man when you know something is wrong, right? And you're allowing it anyway. And it sucks. Like now, especially flying, I'm on a TSA list. I have to get to the airport 3 hours early because they do a random search on me every single time I fly. They go through my bags, they test everything for explosives. I get a pat down, I get everything. Happy ending at the end. But nobody can control me now. I can walk into away and say, "I'll drive." You can't force me to do something. And as stupid as a mask is, if you can't say no to a mask, how are you going to say no to something bigger than that? When they knock on your door and say it's time for your booster shot, how are you going to say no to that? So you need to get that practice in now. If you're worried about the 70-year-old lady at Walmart telling you to put a mask on and that hurts you, then you need to take a look at where you're at, because you're not going to be able to fight bigger battles if you can't fight that one. And it seems meaningless, but it's not, because you're not going to be ready for something much bigger down the line, and it's important to get ready. Part of being a man is being ready for action whenever. And if you let those skills grow rusty, you're gonna wish you hadn't. So.
Thanks, brother.
Quick question about location and the fact that you stayed in Jersey. Right now you see a huge exodus of people coming into Florida, Texas, and stuff like that. And I know a lot of people are probably on the fence about living in their hometowns and home states, and just wanted to get your thoughts on why you chose to stay there, especially with what's going on in Jersey, how close it is to New York City, and any advice to people that are kind of on the fence in bluer states and stuff like that, and how you would determine whether it's time to hold the ground or make a move.
I think that's a good question, but I think it's also a question based on the individual. There's a lot of factors in there that you have to weigh in. If you're a man with a family and you're in this blue state and your life is miserable, and there's an opportunity in a red state to provide a better life for your family, and you can be stronger from that position, sure. For us, it made no sense to cut and run. We still have a battle to fight. The battle's not over. And it's to come this far and sacrifice this much just to retreat, that would be an abysmal failure for us. And that's just personal. I also love New Jersey. I just hate the idiots who run it. I love my state. I live on the Delaware River in a nice tiny little house. I just don't like the fact that I pay $6,000 a year on property taxes for a piece of property that's about as big as this room. But I don't want to leave. I want to change it. It's my area. So it's an individual question, and it's something you have to weigh yourself and think about. Do you have any loyalty to the area? And if you don't, go. But if you do, stay, fight, figure it out, make it work.
Thank you.
Yep. Looks like we have time for one more, maybe. Awesome.
Hello again. So, just for your own knowledge, guys, I saw this guy eating a pizza in the cafe. And I couldn't believe he was actually hanging out there just chilling by himself. And he's the most genuine dude I've spoken to in probably my entire life. And very humble, very respectable, and helped me with a personal question I had earlier. But I have a very simple question for you now. Your shirt, does it run small, large?
They run very true to size.
True to size.
Got a good athletic cut on them, and they don't shrink. So
Beautiful. Thank you, sir.
all right, guys. Thank you very much for listening. I appreciate it.